Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
This meeting of the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union Board to order at 6:30. It is Wednesday, October 23rd, and we're meeting at the SU offices on Cherry Hill. And before I go through adjustments, I would actually like to go around the table just to make introductions for the benefit of people who might be watching this on TV. I'm David Clark, a member of the Union High School Board. And also chair of the SU board.
Harley Sterling, I'm the school nutrition director for Wyndham Northeast.
Josh Aberman, board recorder.
Connor Floyd from Food Connects.
Lynn Carey, assistant superintendent.
Kristen Swartout from the Rockingham board.
Brenda Farkas, Union High School, Rockingham.
Charles Chase, I'm on the Athens board and part of the transitional board.
And the supervisory union. Yeah. I'm Cheryl Charles. I'm a part of the Westminster Town School Board, the transitional board for Athens, Grafton, and Westminster, and the SU board.
I'm Jessa Westclark, Grafton transitional board and the SU board.
Priscilla Lambert, representative from the Rockingham board.
Shauna Kutu, Wyndham Northeast business office.
Chris Pratt, superintendent of schools.
Thank you. What do we have for adjustments, Superintendent?
I'd like to add under reports, under 6D, food services presentation.
And transportation?
And transportation, add to 7D, transportation committee appointments.
Okay. I think we will further adjust the food service presentation to come immediately after we approve the minutes, should we approve the minutes. Are there any communications and public comments tonight? Are you aware of any written comment?
I am not.
Chris?
I have none.
Okay, well, let's go right to the minutes. I'd like to have a motion, please, to approve the minutes which are attached to the agenda, September 25th, 2019. A motion.
I'd like to move that we approve the minutes of Wednesday, September 25th, 2019.
And a second, please.
Second.
Charles has a second. Okay. Everyone has had a chance to review those minutes. Are there any corrections? Priscilla?
I'd like my director's comment corrected, please, to see the administration and board working together to support our students at the end of it.
Okay, I'm going to add one correction as well, and that is members in attendance. The members in attendance, actually, it's an interesting point. I think in the future we're going to need to correct this to be voting members in attendance, because Colin James, who is actually a member of the high school board and therefore a member of the SU board, at least according to our bylaws, attended as a non-voting member. So we may want to in the future break it out as voting members, non-voting members, and others. Okay, Cheryl.
First, Josh, I think these are complicated minutes, and you did a very good job with them, I'd like to say. I would like to ask, and I don't mean this to be cumbersome, but I would like you to go through and have the acronyms spelled out. You know, we're all working as a union to try to have the labeling be kind of common sense for people. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to see that done. As an example, one I have trouble with still is MAP. It must be measuring something progress, but but I'm not sure. So if we could do that, I think it would help the public, and it would certainly help the boards, if you don't mind.
All right. Any other corrections to the minutes? All right. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as corrected, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Right. Let us then consider food service presentation. I presume, Harley, you're going to have an overhead?
All right, yeah.
I want to move down the room so I can take it all in.
Okay. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. It's been quite an amazing year for our school nutrition program. I'd love to cover everything, but I've been told to keep it short and sweet, so that's what I intend to do. These are the points I'm going to try to cover, and I'm going to try to move through at a pretty good clip, so if anybody wants me to go into more detail on something, please feel free to stop me or come visit me sometime, and we can talk all about these numbers. So yeah, we had student and staff meals, increase or decrease in meals from the last years, and cost effectiveness of the program to date. So without further ado, this is a report of student breakfast sales from 2018-2019 with the month of June highlighted. So it's broken out by school here, and these are the total meals served. So as you can see, last year we served 45,058 breakfasts, which was 30% of all the students in WNESU ate a breakfast each day on average. So this is the average daily participation by school for the year, with attendance, and then participation percentage, which is a really important metric for measuring the health of school nutrition programs. We talk a lot about participation percentage. So as you can see, 30% for breakfast district-wide is pretty good. Whoops. So this is lunch.
Wow.
Again, broken out by school. We served 93,350 lunches last year to WNESU students, which means that 58% of all students in WNESU were participating in the lunch program on average, which is, I think, a really great number, especially for our first year. One thing I forgot to mention with breakfast, this is percentage by free, reduced, or paid. So you can see that 60% of lunch participation was free students, 12% was reduced. We kind of lumped those together in Vermont because reduced students are also free. So 72% of the kids that were buying lunches got those meals for free last year. And then way down there on the bottom right, 57-34, that's how many adult meals we sold, which is, I think, a really great number as well. So to address the costs or the increases and decreases, Shauna was kind enough to put this together, hot off the press. This is a graph of meal participation from 2016-17 in blue, 17-18 in red, and then last year in green. I think it's important to point out enrollment in the top right, because these graphs are not adjusted for enrollment, which has dropped almost 10% from 2016 to last year. So this is just total sales, not adjusted for enrollment at all. And so what I see here, again, I've been looking at this for just a couple hours, but free and reduced breakfast participation has pretty much been pretty steady, just about flat for the last 3 years. We did see a little bump last year in paid participation. If you look up there, those are the numbers. So paid went from 61.96 in 17-18 to 75.51. So pretty good bump in paid sales, which we like to see because paid sales are an indication of, they're buying it because they're choosing to buy it, not because it's all it's their only option. So again, for lunch, pretty much flat for free and reduced on average. Paid, pretty big bump from $20,191 in 17-18 to $27,555, which is great. And then adult sales, you know, this little graph doesn't really do it justice, but you know, from 17-18, it's almost tripled, which is great. So here we go. This is under the hood. This is the actual expenditure report. We had a budgeted expenditures of $820,577, actual expenditures of $855,442. So we were over budget by $34,865.
And this is for the school year, so.
Sorry?
And this one's for the school year.
Yes, thank you. So this is not the summer food service program. This is just the school year meals program. So again, our budget was made in 2017. There were a lot of things that changed from then to last year when we actually put together our plan. And then, you know, there were some first year startup costs associated with this budget. Training, we sent a number of our managers to the Summer Institute training for a week, which was expensive. And then we had a large startup cost associated with our point of sale system and all the computers, which was like almost $18,000. Here's our revenue report. $820,577 again for revenue projected or budgeted. Actual was $838,805. So we made $18,000 more than we were hoping to, which is also very good. There's plenty to talk about in here. So again, if anybody wants to talk about that, feel free to contact me anytime. We did $25,000 in special functions. So that's like catering, which we were really excited about. And we owe a lot of that to Mr. Pratt and all the other school functions that allowed us to cater their events. So again, Shauna put this together. This is a breakdown of revenue and expenditures. When it all came down to it, we had a net budget of $2,000, $2,014.49 positive. So looking back to those several scenarios that we had created in 2017, one of which was scenario 3, kind of the average of the food service management company in the Westminster program. This was kind of what I considered the target, which would have equated to a general fund transfer of $239 per student for the program. We came in $166.34 per student for the program. So, you know, I haven't had a lot of time to process this, but I think that's really good. So that's a lot of the nitty-gritty numbers. I originally considered putting a slide of food in between each the numbers, but I did want to show y'all, you know, some of what we have been doing for the last year. This is Chef Tristan at the high school. This is our new chef at Central School, Erica, doing amazing things down there. You know, got some adult meals going on. Lots of fresh fruits and veggies. This is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. Making 400 pork dumplings for the Lunar New Year by hand. Pretty cool for those kids at high school. Lots of pizza going on every Wednesday. Homemade bread as much as we can. There's Melissa from Westminster doing her thing. It's our beautiful signs at the high school. You know, a little highlight of some of our catering platters. There's me with Chef Dan Giusti at the SMA conference. got to meet him. That was a really awesome moment for us. For those of you who don't watch a lot of Netflix, Chef Dan was the executive chef at Noma, which is widely considered and is often the #1 restaurant in the world. Now he works at his own company called Brigade, where they do school food and they try to get chefs in schools. So he's been a big inspiration for us, and he came to the SNA conference as our keynote speaker, and so we got to talk to him a lot about everything he's been going through, and lots of cool perspective. We got a lot of grants last year, almost $40,000, most notably the Vermont Farm to School grant. Thanks to the help of Dr. Carey here, we were able to get a brand new stove at the middle school, lots of new equipment, mixers, signs. We're hoping to get a new oven soon. So that's all been really an amazing little boost as we try to update kitchens and get things, ready for having these great cooks that we have in all of our schools so they can do what they do. We got community sponsorship from Mascoma Bank, $3,500 to help offset unpaid student meal debt at the end of the year, which cut our unpaid student meal debt by more than half. So that was amazing as well. Just last couple weeks ago, we hosted some representatives from Senator Sanders' office to discuss the Child Nutrition Reauthorization Act. They came down here and we got to talk about them and what they're trying to propose to put into the legislation. And everything that they're proposing are things that would definitely help our program. They talked about increasing the reimbursement for breakfast and lunch. Obviously that would just be money in the bank for us. But then also this, I really love this part about a 30% or a 30-cent incentive for schools that purchase more than 30% of their food locally. And they define locally really specifically, like 250 miles radius. So we definitely meet that criteria. We're probably 35-40% of the money we spend is what they would consider local food. So we're way out in front, and even though some of this might not be realistic in the near term, this is the language that's coming out of Senator Sanders' office and a lot of other representatives around the country trying to get local food in. So obviously 30% per plate for us would be a huge boost. Probably like another $50,000 or $60,000. So within all the money that we spent, really proud of the fact that we spent $36,000 at our local food hub, Food Connects. And that's buying everything from ground beef to apples, to potatoes, lettuce. That's the sort of hyper-local food that we're spending money on. And, many thousands of dollars more on like Vermont dairy, eggs, beans, products like that. It's a significant amount of the money we spend is going to help our local food growers and food growers in the state of Vermont. And I sort of talked about this at the CNR meeting with Senator Sanders' people. It's we are so proud of the money that we can spend to support local food growers and farmers. But I'm just as proud of the money that we're spending to support the people that are cooking the food in each of our schools. This is like truly one of the most amazing child nutrition teams in the state, maybe anywhere. Every one of these people is just so dedicated to what they're doing, and you can email them on a Sunday, they'll get back to you within an hour. And if they run out of vanilla, they'll go to the store and buy it themselves. These are people on the front lines feeding our kids every day, and I'm super proud of the money that our program spends to support them and do what they do. So it's just another way of looking at it. It's not just local with the food, but it's these great cooks and chefs that we have in each one of our schools. So that's pretty much it. How'd I do for time? Pretty good? Mr. Pratt.
Yeah, I'd just like to say if you haven't had the opportunity to go in and have a lunch at one of the schools, I highly recommend it. It's some of the best food that, it's probably, if not the best food I've ever seen come out of a school cafeteria. And even it's restaurant quality in what the kids are getting, and it's local. And the amount of time and work that Harley and his staff put into this, we are very fortunate to be providing our kids and our staff with such a high quality meal at lunchtime. It's so impressive. I mean, even the pictures don't do it justice in regards to, you know, what they bring out of those kitchens. It really is high quality, you know, restaurant, fine dining food that our students are getting in these kitchens, and it's all from Harley and his staff and Shauna, what she's doing up there to put all this together. So it's a huge team effort, and it's very impressive. But I would encourage anyone who has the opportunity to go get a meal, you're gonna get your money's worth.
Thank you very much. And I echo your sentiment about Shauna. She's definitely our unsung hero. She's not always the best at taking credit for what she does behind the scenes, but we could not do what we do without her. She's truly a remarkable resource. So thank you for everything, Shauna.
Thank you.
What is
Michelle's
the
got a
cost
question
of your
for you.
meals?
So our student prices, $2.95 for a paid student lunch in elementary school, so K through 8, and then $3.25 for a student lunch in the high school level. And then breakfast is $1.85 K through 8, and $2 K through 12. And then
And
an
the
adult
adult
meal is
price is
$4.99.
$4.90 for both breakfast and
$2.50 for breakfast.
$2.50 for breakfast.
We don't do a lot of adult breakfast, sorry guys.
Edie, you can probably help me with this, but first of all, this is just fabulous. And the fact that you actually got $2,000 in the black in the first year is amazing. And what I'd look for is a little help from you, Edie, because I think I'm the only actual Westminster Town School Board member here, where we really were so proud of you and we invested in this program and we took losses and made up the difference, you know. And so I am just thrilled to see this result that's serving all the children and staff members and others who want it in this area. Really thank you for your dedication.
Thank you.
And I want to acknowledge the Westminster Town School Board for hanging in.
Absolutely. If it wasn't for the Westminster Board, we wouldn't have this now.
Truly, we truly could not do this without community support. Westminster really did stand by me as we were coming up with all of these ideas and systems, and without all of that enthusiasm doing what we were trying to do, there's no way that this would be possible, and there's still no way that it would be possible without all the support we get from school administrators, teachers, parents, and the school board.
Again, I'm thrilled to see how you managed to make this first year work as well as you did. So thank you. And let us know what else you need.
Okay.
Any other questions, Harley?
Yes, with all due respect, what are you looking at for next steps?
Jeez. I don't know. You know, for next steps, there's always more participation to be gleaned. You know, I'm always looking at how we can improve the program to serve more of our students, but also to serve more meals, which helps our bottom line. Because every time we reimbursable meal, that's federal dollars coming to our town and our state. So breakfast participation, 30%. You know, I'd love for that to be higher. I'd love for it to, if you see Grafton can do 55% participation at breakfast. I think a lot of that has to do with systems in the school, where the morning routine is built, has a spot for breakfast built in. So I'd love to take some of the models and examples where things are being successful within our district and try to replicate them more so at other schools so that we can increase that participation. Lunch, the same thing. We have this great 66% participation average between all the elementary schools. So if you take Athens, Grafton, Saxons River, Westminster, and Central, I think it comes out to like 66%, so 2/3, which is outstanding. We're seeing those numbers go up at the middle school this year naturally as all those elementary school kids come there and they're used to the program. So we're seeing those numbers go up a little bit. You know, I'd love to get those high school numbers up. There's a lot of moving parts at a high school. So there is room for next steps in the participation. We've kind of hit some limits to our growth. Like,
May I ask you a follow-up question, please? Sure. And that is, if I recall from previous presentation you made, you have in the past catered outside organizations. Is that still part of the model?
We sure try as much as we can. I rarely say no to any opportunity that comes my way. We have a catering menu. We found a great niche this year. Like I said, catering all the school and district special functions. I'd love to expand that outside of just the school.
Were you doing something like Meals on Wheels or some other service organization years past?
We service the Westminster Early Education Centers, so the Head Start centers. We cater to the Hill House private daycare. We run a lot of after-school meals programs, so it's CACFP at-risk after-school meals program. So it's essentially like a light supper right after school. So we really try to explore every program we can find, any source of revenue and any way to get more food to kids. Yeah, go ahead.
And then in the summer, we serve meals to 13 different sites throughout the summer, spanning from Putney all the way up to Springfield and out to Grafton. So that's a huge revenue boost, taking on those extra sites.
Yeah, summer is very busy around here. Food program.
Do you have the catering information online where people can go find it?
Yes, we have a website, farmschoolcafe.org.
Fantastic.
And we have meal payment information there, menus, and our catering menus.
Thank you.
Great questions.
Thank you, Harley.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Policies for adoption, Chris. We have two on here.
We do.
Firearms, which is code C5.
Yeah, and these are for adoption. It's not that we did not have them in the past. It's just they've split them out. At one point, you had weapons and firearms fall into one policy. They've been separated out to firearms one policy and weapons another. So that's why this is on here for adoption. Board member conflict of interest is the other policy. That's a new policy. That is the policy committee reviewed. The firearms policy had very few revisions. We've changed a couple, just like in the weapons policy, we changed a few of the shalls to mays to give the administration a little more leeway in making decisions. So those are the two we have tonight.
Let's get a motion on the floor on firearms, which is code C5. Can I have a motion on that, please? Would you give me a motion, Kristen, on that?
Yes, I will give you a motion. Wait, what?
I'm asking if you can put a motion on the floor for adoption of firearms, which is code C5 for the purpose of discussion.
Yes, I move that we adopt the firearm policy code C5.
Okay. And a second?
Second.
And Priscilla has a second. I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot here. I just want to get it out there to see if we have discussion. Is there discussion? Is there any further comment on it, Chris?
I do not.
Okay. All right then. All those in favor of adopting the firearms policy, which is code C5, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And now we'd like a motion, please, on board member conflict of interest. How about a motion, Brenda?
Yes, I make a motion that we would accept the conflict of interest code A1.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please? And Cheryl has a second. Any discussion? Any further comment? Chris? Okay. All those in favor of adopting the board member conflict of interest, which is code A1, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we've got those done. So we're down to reports. Superintendent.
I have one question. You said this was split out firearms, and what was the other one it was split out from?
Weapons.
From weapons, but we don't have a weapons one here. Is that coming later?
Here we
or-
have it. Will probably be on the next agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for asking, Priscilla. You have a report in the packet, Chris. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, you know, in the past, I've usually just let people know I have a packet. If you have any questions, let me know. But what I'd like to do is just to review that for the public, the superintendent's report, because they don't necessarily, you know, have access to that packet right away. So I'm just going to kind of peruse through the packet and make some highlights in regards to the SU report. So the first thing is, starting in November, I'm hoping to use a platform called Zoom in order to get public participation more in board meetings. And what that would look like is that they would be able to log on. I would put the link onto Facebook or the school website or my blog and get it out there to people. So anyone who would want to log on through Zoom to the board meeting, what they would be able to do is that they'd be able to, you know, watch it through Zoom, but also if they had questions, there'd be a side field there that they could ask the board questions, and at the end of the board meeting, or if it's a relevant time, if it gives them the opportunity to participate from home, which I think it's important, and also something that we're always trying to find ways to get community engagement. So I'm hoping in November to launch that, and I will be posting those links on the school website, the SU website, the Facebook website. So is it going to go without hiccups? I'm hoping, but you know, we'll see how it goes. But at least we're moving in this direction in regards to finding ways to get the public
Thank you.
more involved in the board meetings without actually being here. So I'm excited about that. We're also starting to use a new bus management software called School Bus Manager. And I think I spoke a little bit about this in the past in regards to it's really going to help us really look at the routes, be able to communicate with parents more, actually have times when a bus will stop at one stop and be at another stop. We'll be able to take attendance on the bus. We'll be able to track how many hours a student is spending on the bus. All important data that we need to improve the transportation of our students back and forth from school, and hopefully do a better job even with routes. But I think it's very important that we try to find ways to better communicate with our parents in the community in regards to when their students on the bus and when they can expect their student home or to be picked up. So we're going to continue to work on that. We're in the process now of loading students into the system and taking a look at routes, and so hopefully that will keep us moving in the direction of providing reliable transportation and also better communication with the family and the communities. In addition to that, I've asked former Superintendent Chris Kibbe to kind of go over what we're currently doing with the bus routes, almost like an audit of what the current routes look like. I myself, not from the area, it was really tough to find someone who can, you know, who knows what we do with the transportation and where the stops are and what the kids are and stuff. So Chris Kibbe has been working with, he's spoken to some principals, he's spoken to the director of special ed, he's met with Edie to help us look to see if there's a better way to look at the routes and how we're picking up and dropping off kids. So he's been helping us with that. As you all know, the CBA for the support staff has been...
And the CBA, Chris, is a...
What's that?
Collective bargaining agreement?
Yes, I'm sorry. The collective bargaining agreement for the support staff, we're just going to have, it's all been ratified except for the high school school board, and they'll be doing that. And as soon as that's ratified, we'll get the contracts out to the support staff. Lynn, I didn't know if you want to. I'll skip over Lynn's section for a minute so she can talk a little more about that. I wanted to get to some of the others. As far as professional development, we're well underway, and Missy Wilkins has been very busy in providing the professional development in-house. And like I said before, we've been working with Landmark School in regards to Universal Classroom, and we have cohorts of teachers working through Landmark. In that area, we have one special ed teacher and one regular education teacher from each building who is going through these classes through Landmark on universal instruction. So we're excited about that. We got a great kickoff to the year in regards to the new restorative practices program. We've had the training ongoing for the middle school and the high school in Tier 1 circles of understanding, and we're hoping to spread that to the elementary schools within the next few months. Just so you know, our next training is going to be on October 25th from 12:30 to 2:45 with the middle school and the high school. What they'll be doing at that time is articulating how circles work and connects to restorative practices, understand how to facilitate a circle, identify different contexts to use the circles in their work, and begin to address some challenges of the circles when you do conduct that. So it's all hands-on training. We're trying to, we put surveys out after each professional development so we can get feedback from the teachers of what they want more of, so we're just not guessing at it. And so based on our previous feedback, that's what they want more of. They want actually more doing of the circles, the Tier 1 circles that we're talking about. So we've been very excited about that. And Director of Student Services, currently we have servicing 278 students, birth through grade 12.
What kind of students, Chris?
Special ed students who are on individual education plans, IEPs. And currently we have 19 new referrals. And you know, it's no surprise, it's on the rise, but trying to think, see some of the other data we have here. We have a total of 23 case managers to service 252 students on individual education plans, IEPs. So that just give you a quick update on where we are with that. Like I said, we're currently servicing 278 students. We already spoke a little bit about the restorative practices. We've been doing a lot of partnering with the Greater Falls Community Justice Center and getting us going with training. And it's important to note that the WNESU has developed a new model for restorative practices that it's probably not going to be found anywhere else, because we're looking at the K through 12. And the team does consist of the overall arching restorative practices department. It makes up the homelessness, the home to school, the student assistance program, and the after school program liaisons all fall under that umbrella. And they're all doing a fantastic job coming together as a team for the first time, because before this, they all worked independently in isolation on themselves. So now we have a team of, I guess, student services that all fall under one department, and they're working together, they're talking, and you know, that's a rareness, because usually all these individuals are working in isolation. So, and you just had the presentation from the food service program, which was very impressive, and I can't say enough good stuff about the work they do. So with that, Lynn, did you want to talk a little bit about curriculum-wise?
We talked, last month we talked about our SIP, our goal 1. Next month we'll be doing goal 2, and you will really hear a lot about restorative practices. I had a meeting today with Jessie Hall, our restorative practices practitioner, our specialist, and we're excited. We're right now working on a grant to purchase from the Mount Ascutney Hospital and Health Center Prevention Network grant to purchase an $83 manual that is hopefully he'll bring it next month, but it is very great. And this is to provide for all the teachers, or at least one in each classroom, for the students, the teachers to use when they're working in circles with their students. And when we say circles, you really have to understand what we're talking about. It's a very powerful connection, and the goal being connecting the students to the school. And through that connection, if they understand that people care about them and they are thought about, and we're all concerned about their future and what they're doing, we're really hoping, and research will show us, that we'll see less self-destructive behavior, less substance abuse, more graduation, more positive behaviors. So we're pretty excited about doing that. So, and we're also looking at another grant like we did last year for the stove. We're looking at a grant for Athens, Grafton School, Grafton Elementary School, for their outdoor farm to kitchen program. So that's lately what I've been doing.
And next month, you'll be getting more detailed information on restorative practices and how it ties into the continuous improvement plan, the SIP. And so we're looking forward to presenting that to all of you because we're very excited about it.
And if I could back you up very quickly to the first goal, which I believe dealt with title money. If you could give us just the quickest explanation of what we were doing, because there may be some people who see this at home who weren't here for the first episode.
Well, the first episode really quickly made the connection between the $2 million we receive in entitlement funds and the requirement from the federal government and the state government that we engage in a continuous improvement plan. And this is in every state, everywhere, although the states get to call the parameters or the boundaries of the SIP. So we went through how we do a SIP and how we do a needs assessment and a root cause analysis, and then how we come up with plans to improve. And then when you, at the end of that year, you reassess and you write another one, because you're always improving. We always are going to be improving. And so the first goal, we have 4 dictated by the state. The first one was MTSS, or student academic.
And MTSS is?
Multi-tiered systems of support. And that includes not just title money, although we use Title II money to pay for the trainings. So when Chris was speaking about Landmark and the cohorts going through universal design, that universal design is multi-tiered systems of support. So it's all connected with everything we do. So title money pays for that, and yet it involves Act 173. And I think hopefully by the time we're done going through the SIP plan, we'll all see how everything we do is connected to the SIP, the grants, the law, and how we're helping our students improve.
I think it's important for the public to understand that when we talk about federal money, these are the grant monies that we use to support the education in the schools. And if it's not reflected in the continuous improvement plan, the SIP, then we can't use that grant money for that initiative that we want to do for the school and increase education. So that's when we really talk about grant monies. So we're talking about how important it is to be tied into the continuous improvement plan. So if we want to use that money, it has to be reflected in that plan.
Literally, every investment we make, we have 60 of them. Every single one has to be connected to goal 1, 2, 3, or 4. And goal 1 being the multi-tiered systems of support, and goal 2 will be restorative justices, restorative practices. And then we'll get on to 3 and 4 later.
And I want to keep our meeting moving here, but I just want to reiterate that we had a remarkably fast turnaround on the continuous improvement plan when it was submitted to the Agency of Education. And they liked it so much that they are using it as a model for other districts. So anytime you wonder how we're doing here in Wyndham Northeast, the answer is Wyndham Northeast is frequently on the cutting edge. It's important to remember. Question, Cheryl?
Yes, I think Superintendent Pratt, that in the report about the busing situation and the agreement with the support staff, you didn't have the opportunity to make the point that you're making some improvements in that area. I mean, we get so many questions from parents about the longer bus routes and the things involved in all of that. So say a little bit more about what you're hoping to do as soon as all of that's finalized.
Yeah, as soon as everything's finalized and the support staff contract has been ratified, what we're hoping to do, and it's a work in progress, is we're hoping to eventually have another body on the bus, not just a driver, to support the needs of the driver, because it's all about student safety. And the negotiation team with the support staff really made it clear that that's a priority of theirs, that we're addressing the needs that are on the bus. Because we all know nowadays there's so much going on the roads in regards to texting and tired drivers that we cannot expect the driver to be keeping an eye on the road when there's so many distractions on the bus. So we are going to continue to push forward and identify the buses who have the greatest need right now to have that additional supervisor on the bus, and hopefully get to a point where all the buses have another body on the bus for the safety of the kids and everyone on that bus. And that was, and so that just goes into the whole, the transportation piece. We want to do everything we can to provide high quality transportation for the families, for the students, but also for the workers too. So we're looking at it from 360, everything, from the amount of time students spend on buses. This data hopefully will give us an idea that we know how much time students are spending on buses, because we can take that attendance. But we're trying to overall improve the transportation program, so we're, like anything else, we want to do what's best for the community and the kids, but also be a model for other SUs that, this is, how you should do it if you want to make sure that kids are being safe. Parents trust their students with us, and not just in the classroom, but on the roads as well. And I think, we're trying to take a deeper look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you're looking at the times on there too, right? Because the state recommends times. It doesn't specify that you have to adhere to them, but it recommends times that students should be on there. So you're looking at that as well.
Yes.
Thanks for pointing that out, Priscilla. Chris, anything else under superintendent's report?
No, thank you.
Okay. Most people watching these meetings know that Edie Cole is our business manager and continues to do an outstanding job in a increasingly complex environment. And I personally believe, not having gotten a whole lot of help from the new software, that our business operation has been continually troubleshooting for the Agency of Education. And with that introduction, how are we doing, Edie?
Well, I thought I was going to be able to give you this really pretty Cognos report that has everything subtotaled, and when I ran it and was reviewing it, I realized that there was a lot of line items missing, a lot of actual expenditures missing, and it seems that it's pulling from budget prep. And when we went live, they told us, oh, don't worry about putting it into budget prep. You can put it directly into fund accounting. And so, needless to say, unless I go back and put everything I put in fund accounting back into budget prep, that report will never ever run correctly. We've got the assessments all figured out. Everybody's good there. But when we were going through, or I was going through it this week, I realized that Teresa, who's new, and God bless her, because she walked in, didn't know either software, had to reconstruct the general ledgers. She's done an outstanding job, but she didn't realize we had direct bill bags. So just based on this report, I ended up with a $41,000 $129 surplus. However, that still includes all of the school's expenses that need to be billed back to the schools. It's the regular ed portion of the paras. It's the a portion of the one of the secretaries at the high school, and it is for the additional tech support over and above our IT director. So I know this number will be considerably higher, but we'll end up giving it all back to the schools anyway. But
Is
we
that an
do.
example of a direct bill back to you?
Yes. And so what we do is, let's say the regular ed portion of a para is 20,000, we bill that back to the school. That's a revenue, so that increases the surplus. So once the direct bill backs are done, then we take a look at all the assessments, and we give all that money back to the schools. The SU, I guess it depends on how you read the law according to our auditors. But when I read it, it seemed pretty clear that the SU is not supposed to stockpile money because we're in existence because of the schools. The schools go away, the SU goes away. So, and it's really taxpayer dollars. Excuse me. So what we want to do is make sure we've got everything in here. I will clean up that report because it looks so much better than this. This came directly from eFinance. I tried to run another one, and the last time I looked it was up to 350 pages, so I wasn't about to copy that or print it or copy it. I don't know why it needed all that detail. So we're struggling. We're making progress. And my hope is that we can get everything finalized soon, so that in November we can start on next year's budgets. And hopefully last year will be put away for good. And so that's right now the goal is to finish up, and the SU of course is the biggest entity. All the others are pretty well done. I do have I have submitted a question around the balance sheet because last I knew, assets minus liabilities equals fund balance, but not on those balance sheets. So in one district we had 240,000 in assets, and we had 220 in liabilities, and I had 1.6 million in fund balance, so not even close. But yeah, we're struggling. We're all working like crazy. This last weekend was not helpful. They shut down eFinance Friday night at 9 o'clock for an update. It was supposed to come back on Saturday night at 9 o'clock. Rhonda and I were here on Sunday. It didn't work. Monday it still didn't work, and they finally got it fixed at 4 o'clock Monday afternoon. So I'm not sure what they updated, but for us, it just made a mess. So, and they're constantly updating. So I don't know what they're doing. and what's so important that they constantly have to shut it down, but it's just not helping us in this process if they're going to keep messing it up so the software doesn't work. But I did talk to one of the trainers today. They're working on getting us some more training, which will be helpful. We've got to figure out a way to make payroll work faster. I don't know if it's possible. I did see some emails going back and forth today from some of the new business managers that went live on July 1, and one of them said that it's like you need to do a lot more than turn left, but the software only lets you turn left. And so I can already start hearing some of the frustration, and they haven't been on it very long.
We'll be talking more, I think, about the Ed Finance software under 8B, other business for discussion and action. Edie, how do the schools look?
So far, they look good. I think right now the only one I know that had a small deficit was Athens, and we knew that. And it was basically due to 7 and 8 tuition, which you can never count on anyway. You know, we do our best guess when we're putting the budget together, but the kids move, more kids come in. But I think they only had like a $7,000 deficit, so. But everyone else seems to be in the black and doing well, and as soon as we get the monster of the SU figured out, grants are fine. It appears everything else in the general fund, it's just Teresa wasn't aware of the bill backs, and I thought Christine had gone over it with her, and she hadn't, and so this week it was surprise. One more thing. But no, my staff has done an amazing job hanging in there. They're extremely resilient, which is a blessing, because if they leave, it's not going to get better.
Okay, are there any questions about the financial for Edie? All right, well, thank you, Edie.
Yep.
Reports C, committees. We had a policy meeting that lacked a quorum tonight.
We did. Some of the policies that we, just so you know, that we were looking at, put them in my office. Do you have the?
Oh, I have.
Oh, excuse me, just take a look at these. So the next policies that we're looking at, just because they're mandated policies, so I'm trying to go through all those first, is the student conduct and discipline and the policy of prevention, harassment, and hazing and bullying. I really didn't see any changes that we needed to make in these two here because they were updated in 2015, but I did want to just go through it one more time just to see if there were anything that we needed to change in those. The new one that would be D3, responsible computer, network, and internet use. That what I'd like to do with that one is bring it to the technology committee to have them take a look at, and then bring it back to the policy committee to take another look at it. I think it's an important, we do not have that one yet. It is required that we have that, and I think it's just good timing, seeing that most of the schools are going to be one-to-one, and especially with the high school just going one-to-one with Chromebooks. I think it's an important policy that above that it's required that we have as many eyes as that and possible to make sure we're not missing anything. So those are the next 3 policies that we'll be looking at.
Okay. when we get down to, under new business to 7D, we're gonna see if we can establish a transportation committee. New business for discussion and action. Approve a teacher retirement incentive memorandum for Jean Clues, is that correct pronunciation?
Jean Close,
Klaus?
I
Okay.
believe it is.
And I believe her letter is in the packet, page 17. I believe that this is fairly self-explanatory here, Chris, but would you tell us what we need to do and what the administrative recommendation is, please?
Well, she's under the early retirement incentive that we, as you can see in her letter, that it would, anyone who lets us know prior to October 1st, they qualify for a $7,500 stipend for that. She's been in here at Central Elementary for 37 years, plus 5 years teaching in New Hampshire. So this is the procedure that she has to go through, and in regards to the memorandum of understanding for anyone who would like to get that stipend, she is notifying us by August 1st, so I'd recommend that the board approve her early retirement request so she can get the $7,500 stipend that we agreed upon giving anyone who does this in the new CBA.
So this is an early retirement stipend for a professional with 42 years of service. And can I have a motion, please, to approve the early retirement stipend for Ms. Clues?
So moved.
And a second?
Sure.
And Jessica got a second?
Yep.
All right, is there discussion under the motion? Okay, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay. Next item of business is a request from the WNEA to enter into negotiations for teachers and support staff. What do we do here, Chris?
Well, considering we just wrapped up negotiations last month, those negotiations were for this year, and it was a one-year contract. So we're going to be right back at it again. And the unions of the support staff and the teachers would like to begin those negotiations as soon as possible, so we're not running into the summer and into the following school year. So I would recommend that the board agrees to have the negotiations committee start negotiations when they feel they are ready.
Okay, so I think a motion might be to acknowledge receipt of the request from the WNEA to enter into negotiations and reestablish a negotiations committee. So,
So moved.
okay, thank you, Priscilla. A second, Charles, can I have a second? All right. Motion is to acknowledge receipt of the request to enter into negotiations with teachers and support staff and to reestablish the negotiations committee. Discussion. Okay, all those in favor?
Isn't it the negotiations committee has not been disbanded or anything, so we don't have to reestablish?
Well, it's always possible, Jessa, that we could see some change in the membership of those committees, and that's why I'd like to reestablish them.
Okay.
Just as an aside on that too, the health thing has gone into, it will have to go to the arbitrator because they just came to no decision and impasse for the state.
And I believe the date for that is November 1st. I think they'll be going to the
Yeah,
arbitrator.
I think they have to decide by December 15th. That's what it said on the news. On that.
For the benefit of people who are watching this meeting from home, what that means is that the statewide negotiating committee that's negotiating health care benefits on behalf of all the school boards in Vermont and the Teachers Association, which is negotiating health benefits on behalf of all the teachers in Vermont, will submit their proposals to the arbitrator. And you correct me if I'm wrong, Priscilla, the arbitrator will then choose one proposal or the other.
One or the other. There's no combining them.
So it's either going to be the board's proposal or it's going to be the teacher's proposal, and not a hybrid model that incorporates elements of both. Is there anything else we should?
Well, they tried to go through mediation, so it's been a whole long process, but it just broke down, so.
Okay, that's item B, and did we get a affirmative vote on that, Josh?
Yeah.
So we can move on to item C, which
I don't think we
We
voted.
didn't vote. We didn't
okay,
vote.
well, thank you. All those in favor of the motion to acknowledge receipt of the WNEA request to negotiate and reestablish that negotiations committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, all right. 7C is to approve negotiating or securing real estate leasing options that would refer to space for the operations of the WNESU business and education operations, and we will contemplate that in executive session, which we'll do after we have gone through item 11, which is director's comments. And I anticipate that action is likely to result from that executive session. Okay, let's establish a transportation committee, Chris. What do we need to do?
Just let's. Well, at first, I think it would be, of course, I would be on that, and I'd probably try to get Jennifer Rose, who was presented, to be on that as well. So I'd be looking for at least 2 members of the board to serve on that committee.
Is there anyone at the table tonight who has a specific interest in serving on a transportation committee? Thank you, Cheryl.
I do. My first grade grandson rides the bus. I'd be pleased to participate in that.
Okay. Is there anyone else with a strong interest in it? We'll float it out there to the. When do you want to get going, Chris, on it?
Oh, it probably wouldn't be until after December recess because I want to get everything into the computer and stuff.
Then we could trot it around to local boards and see if there's additional interest.
Excellent.
Okay. So we'll put that under items for next meeting, which would be an update on establishment of that committee. Okay. Other old business for discussion and action. Busing committee update, I guess that's it right there. Status of Ed Finance software. I did ask to get this back on the agenda, so Edie, what is the status of the Ed Finance software?
Well, I know Power School's making changes to it based on our requests. And the AOE has negotiated additional training for all of the districts, which is a huge help, but would have been a bigger help at the beginning before we started it versus after we've been doing it for 9 months. They seem to be receptive. I've sent them reports. Teresa sent them reports. They're looking at them. They're weighing in. And if there's enough interest statewide, then one of the trainers that's been here, Leslie McMahon, is a whiz at Cognos, and she's actually building reports for all of us to share. Michelle Weingarth is the one who came here this last time, and probably will be the one that we have again. But yeah, the good thing about having the whole state going live is they have the ability to get the software company to work with us. But it really wasn't set up for fund accounting. It does some really odd things. It's extremely counterintuitive. What it should do, or you think it should do, is nothing at all what it does. But we're adapting, we're getting more familiar with it. I'm finding things that, and I'm able to do things I couldn't do 2 months ago. But the software is huge. We haven't even looked at setting up the employee portal. And once we do that, employees can get in the spring when they know they're getting a raise. They can play around with their net check, see what they want to do with it. They can change their address, they can change their phone number, they can do all that. A notice will always go to the payroll person, so she's very aware of these changes. It has a lot of bells and whistles, but at this point in time, we're just trying to do the basic accounting. And we are getting it done, but I will say the software is extremely slow and cumbersome, and it's taking 2 to 3 times longer to do things than what it ever did with Tyler.
Thank you, Edie, and thank the people upstairs who are doing the very best they can with a difficult situation.
Yep, I will.
Chris, do we have any appointments?
No, I do not.
Okay. Director's comments. Priscilla.
Thank you.
Tessa? No. Cheryl?
Well, I'm going to add, while we were talking about the food services program earlier, and I acknowledge the commitment from the Westminster School Board to support those efforts, I really also want to acknowledge the voting members of the community who are the ones who approved that budget. And so it's been their support that actually made it possible to do a lot of the legwork to create this, what's becoming now an effective program that serves all of the children in our supervisory union. So thanks to the voting members of Westminster.
Anything else, Cheryl?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Charles? Brenda?
All set.
Kristen?
All set.
Okay. I would like to comment on the ed accounting software. Cognos, in a previous iteration, sent the Speaker of the House, Sal DeMacy, to jail because he availed himself of some of their unscrupulous business practices. It is a fact that some of the modules which do not talk to each other within the Cognos software program are 10 and 12 years old. It is what we refer to in my industry as a turd, but turd is not the term that we use. It has burned up a huge amount of human resource in this building, and I think that we at some point should express our disapprobation in very strong terms, both to the Agency of Education as well as our local legislators. I am hopeful that it will eventually function in the manner in which it was sold to us as being able to function, because it hasn't happened yet. And, you know, once again, it's a virtual heartache for me to see the amount of effort that's gone into it in the business office and has yielded very spotty results. So when we have problems with software in this building, any, you know, human element which is involved is exacerbated by what they have to work with. Chris?
You know, and I think it's important to add to that, just so the public's aware, is that, you know, because of the issues of this ineffective software, it's a domino effect, and it directly relates to the ongoing payroll issues that we have. And it's not something that, you know, we're aware of. We've been trying to work on it, but when you have a system that is so inept to handle school finances, and we're trying to get payroll out, I mean, that's a huge thing. It's something that my office, Edie's office, have been very concerned about, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that they're meeting payroll. But when you're working with a system such as the one you just spoke about, David, it really is frustrating.
Okay. We'd like to have a motion, please, to go into executive session for the purpose of negotiating or securing real estate leasing options. Can I have a motion, please? Thank you, Christy. And a second? Charles, thank you for the second. All those in favor of entering into executive session? And as I said before, I anticipate that there will be action taken as a result of that. Please say aye.
Aye.
All right.